You're listening to 93.1 FM, Rise Up with your host, Chi-Chi. I'm at Collected Works Bookstore on Wellington Street off Holland with Deux Voiliers Publishing. Next week on Friday, June 1st, from 7 to 9 p.m. They'll be having their first open house, so do come in, join. I'm with Ian Shaw, Steve Bennett, and Chris Turner, all local writers in the Ottawa region. So I have a few questions here for all three of you writers. First, we'll start with you, Ian. The first is, can you tell us a little bit about Deux Voiliers and how it started up?
Well, last year I decided to write a novel, which was based on some anecdotes that a Vietnamese Canadian friend shared with me over many a glass of wine, and some of them were quite moving. I thought it'd be nice to capture them along with other stories in a work of fiction. So I sat down and I wrote the novel, and having written the novel, like all first-time novelists, I came to the realization that having a novel published in Canada is extremely difficult. The traditional publishing industry is retrenching. The distribution is very complicated. And then I started to get into the self-publishing idea, which I initially did. And I decided to set up my own micro-press as a start, starting with my own novel and seeking out other local novelists who also wanted to come together to join forces to really get their works out in bookstores, online, and really in the global marketplace. And so that's what we've done with Deux Voiliers.
Can you tell me a little bit about the name and how you thought of the name?
Well, I was sitting in a bakery in Elmer where I live, and there was this beautiful painting in the bakery, and it was for sale, and it was called Deux Voiliers, which means two sailboats in French. And it had one sailboat that was following another sailboat on some fairly rough waters. And it was obvious that the first sailboat was breaking the waves for the second one. And I thought, humanity is a bit like that. This is the way the world works, that some people help you find your way and you follow in their wake. So I emailed that off to a friend of mine, and I thought that was a very lovely idea. So I chose the name Deux Voiliers, and I did a little acrylic painting, which became the logo for Deux Voiliers Publishing.
And what do you hope to achieve with Deux Voiliers Publishing?
Well, I hope that we'll be able to give the chance to a lot of Canadian novelists, especially here in Ottawa, but later in Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, to get their works out into bookstores, especially independent bookstores like the Collected Works bookstore here, which has been very supportive of our efforts, and give Canadians a chance to read literature written by other Canadians that's really fascinating stories. We're looking for imagination. One of the logos that we use in Deux Voiliers is Feed Your Imagination.
And you've actually published a book, which I'm enjoying so far, and it's Soldier Lily, Peace and Pearls. Can you maybe give us a little synopsis of the book?
Well, the story, as I said, is inspired from the childhood anecdotes of a friend of mine, as well as other stories that I've brought into it. And it starts with two young children. One is in Saigon and the other is in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, in 1975, when the communists take over both South Vietnam and Cambodia. The children and their families are discriminated against because they're associated with the former regimes. In one case, the family in Saigon, they're imprisoned for 3 years, almost 3 years. And in the case of the family in Cambodia, they're sent to a collective farm. The two children meet up after 3 years in Malaysia in a refugee camp, and one becomes the protector of the other. One is a boy, and he's in charge of the safety of the girls in this united family, because the boy is adopted by the other family. Later, they end up coming to Canada, and the story is about integration into Canadian society. So it goes over a period of 30 years. And it's a very intricate story, but a very lovely tale of how people overcome human hardship, and they renew themselves.